thinking next time that you see me.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this week's production of 2Inspiring, Harrisburg's first inspirational television talk show about matters of the heart. Don't forget that the show is being recorded in front of a live studio audience, and we would like to thank all of our guests and sponsors for their business. And now, here's your host, author and motivational speaker, the incomparable Trish Robinson.
Welcome. This is 2Inspiring, Matters of the Heart, a show about the community and for the community. My name is Trish Robinson, and I am your host. The courts are flooded with court cases about child custody. This is a hard discussion to have, but it's necessary. Today we're here with two women who want to share their story of what they went through and what they're going through and how it has affected them financially, mentally, physically, because it is a breakdown. The ladies that I have with me today, welcome. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for being transparent and sharing your story. I have Patricia Washington, who is a mother of three. She is very active in the community. She is a phenomenal woman, and she wants to talk about what her ordeal, what she went through in terms of her child custody case. Can you share with us, just give us a little bit of your experience and what you went through?
Okay, when my children were ages 12 and 13, at that time, I had been not with their father for like 10 years. We were still married, but separated for 10 years. And initially, when we kind of separated, a custody was put in place that it was 50-50, and that's the way it was. And for 6 years, when we had the 50-50 custody, they basically lived with me because at that time, I mean, he was practically homeless, living in a car. We lost everything. So I didn't pursue anything. I was pretty happy with that. I didn't grow up with my father, so I did not want my children not to have their father. So even while all of this was going on, when I was able to get established, I invited him into my home. We had dinner as a family. We watched TV as a family. So we could still kind of be like a family, even though we weren't a family. And then as the kids got older, it was like he started basically poisoning them. And I think the poison came when I basically was moving on with my life. I was getting remarried. And I guess he did not want these children to be under the same roof with another man that was not him.
You were separated, but you guys lived together for a period of time.
No, we were separated for 10 years. We lived in separate houses, all because he would not sign the divorce papers. He did not want me to move on with my life.
And so you went to court and you had joint custody.
Yes.
And then what happened that changed?
He was able to turn his life around, and that's good. And he was able to buy a home. And so all of a sudden, it was like he came into this money, and then it was like he was doing things that I couldn't afford to do. So he took the kids on trips, and he was buying them things. He was really causing just dissension in our home. And so when the kids would come back on their week, they felt like they didn't have to listen. They weren't going to do what I asked them to do. None of that, because they were allowed to do things that I wouldn't let them do at their dad's house. They couldn't do that in my house. So I said, we need a family meeting. And we sat down and I said, look, you know, if you think that what I'm doing isn't good enough, then maybe you need to live with your father. And I was calling their bluff, thinking that they wouldn't go. So they basically left. And when they left, he cut them off from speaking, phone calls, visiting, the whole 9 yards. Everything was...
So you have no relationship with your children?
Yes, really no relationship.
Have you petitioned the court in regards to your communication with the kids, your visitations?
No, I think at this point, this is where, you know, all of this, the Lord was dealing with me, because I'm telling you, that's why I'm sitting here. Is because I saw that Even when we started, he had primary custody because 10 years later, after all of this stuff went, I said, somebody needs to tell this man we got 50-50 going on here. And when we went back, to my chagrin, I lost my split custody. I was given shared. Told I had abandoned him. I find it hard to believe when you're still on my insurance, you know where I live at. He basically cut them off to stop talking to me, to stop dealing with me, his brother. And so I made the decision after I started, when I had my shared custody, to go every other Friday to go and pick them up. And every Friday I would come and I would get a phone call 10 minutes before. Oh, Mama, I got basketball practice. Oh, Mom, I got a birthday party. Oh, Mom. And the last thing was, when I was talking to my daughter, I said to her, is a basketball game more important than you and I having our time together? And the sad thing was, she shrugged her shoulders like that. And so I said to myself, I can't keep coming to this man's house and being crushed every time. And I said, it was nothing but the word of God that kept me from basically just wanting to jump off a bridge or just doing something drastic, because it was hurting to me emotionally. And what I said to myself, I may have to do as Solomon did. I won't cut my kids in half. I will let them go and be with him. And one day we will have our time together without him.
So you made a decision to let them go and allow the choice to be theirs.
Yes.
That has to be hard.
Very.
It has to be tough.
Very.
How did you deal? How do you get through?
I get through because what I do is, as I told you when we talked, I share my story with other women, because I'm not the only one that this has happened to, where there's been unfairness. And I tell them, you have to, basically, this is a learning lesson. God's got a plan. I don't know what it is, but this is a plan. And I share my story. You basically got me to talk to her, I think, at one time. And it's about getting each other through. It's helping somebody that's going through this exact same thing. Because Dauphin County is not designed to restore your family. It's to destroy your family. And that's what they did for me. I knew as a single parent, I had 2 boys. And I was not going to let the streets take my boys. So if I got to do what I got to do as a parent, I'm going to do that, to raise my son to be good men. And because I chose to do that, I was punished for that. And that's where the unfairness comes.
I feel the pain that you feel to have to be alienated from your children. And you're still financially supporting them, correct?
Exactly. And that was the other thing. It's like, what was so weird is like, now I can relate to that man that pays the child support. And I was really taken back by this, because I've been supporting these children all their life. From the womb, I've been supporting them. And that just added insult to injury when I get something from Dauphin County and I have to pay for children that I've already been paying for. From the day one, they've been on my insurance coverage, every shoe, everything that you could possibly imagine. I have done for these children. I worked 2 jobs, 40 hours on one, 30 on another. What kept me going was a picture of my children sitting on the desk. I gotta do this for them. And then they tell me that I owe this man. It was unbelievable.
We need to help support, we need to find answers and solutions to this problem, and that's what it is. It is a problem, and we have to find viable solutions. I have with me Sharon Davis, who also has went through some of the same ordeals in terms of custody. Just hearing what Patty has said, how can you relate to her story?
Well, the Dauphin County courthouse, the judges are not educated enough to handle family law. My custody and my divorce was a contentious custody and divorce battle. The judges do not listen to the children in my case. And
So your
this-
children were asked, they were,
Yes, we were before a judge. And she gave 50-50. But it was a situation where one week that he had them, he had to work 2 days, and he wanted somebody else to watch them while I was available. Somebody else was going to watch my children. So it was very contentious. It was very much about money. And he was looking to destroy me. And this judge just dismissed. I'm not having a hearing. And it went on like that from 2010 to 2014.
so you had no hearing?
He would never, it was
Regarding-
always the 2 attorneys and him in his chambers talking, and, you know, I had to pay people to come, and then he would dismiss everybody, and he would make his own decision. And
Your attorney?
no, the judge.
But what did the attorney say when they dismissed he gave you no reason why it was
He
dismissed?
just said that this judge does whatever he wants to do. It was a known fact throughout Dauphin County.
So is that why you said that it's about money? Why?
I'm not quite sure. I mean, they could not prove anything regarding any kickbacks for him, but there was many people that have had similar situations with that same particular judge, but he just prolonged it. And, you know, even the psychologist said when they took my kids away from me, and because of the contentious custody, I hit my daughter after I was granted primary custody, and we were still not divorced. And my estranged husband pressed child abuse charges against me. Now I'm going to cry. And I'm a school teacher. Anyhow, I knew that, and he has money, and his family has money, and I knew that I was going to lose my job and my children. I'm going to be frank here. I overdosed on pills. My kids were taken away from me for a whole year. But I was allowed to go back to work after 7 days and be around over 100 and some children every day.
So the courts took your kids because
Because
stress?
my
and you were a school
husband's
teacher.
attorney was pretty powerful, and it just kept on dragging out and dragging out. And in June, we were all evaluated, and the psychologist said that they were hurting my children than helping them by keeping them away from me. I had to visit my children for a year at the Y, an hour a week. But anyhow, I finally, that July 9, 2013, that same judge, everybody was there. He said, I'm having a hearing. And then I didn't get to have my children until March 4th, 2014, and I got my children back.
So you have your children now.
Yes, I do. Their life was turned upside down. And the guilt, because of Dauphin County system over here, and I mean, when you have psychologists and psychiatrists trying to tell the judge and the judge wouldn't listen. I mean, if I could, he destroyed my children. He destroyed my children. And my kids have been through hell and back. And they have trust issues. They don't trust anybody. They're intelligent children. They barely made it. You know, Spencer now just made distinguished honors for the first time in his life, and he is so tickled. And I have him going to Huntington to correct his deficiency, so he wants to go to college. And my daughter's in college right now. I got her in by the skin of her teeth. But it's been a struggle for them. They're scarred. And I, again, will blame that particular judge because he dragged it out and he would not make decisions. And that's, it's just ridiculous. I really hold Dauphin County responsible. And I'm just so fortunate that I had a wonderful, wonderful attorney. And he stayed by my side to the very end.
Child custody affects the entire home. Children, socially, emotionally, as well as educationally. We'll be right back after this brief commercial.
Hi, sweetheart.
Hey, you two, it's dinner time.
When Marcus and Michelle were starting their family, they came to the Pennsylvania Housing Finance Agency for their home loan. We're proud we could help Marcus, Michelle, and Mia. If you're looking for an affordable home loan or refinancing option, give us a call. We offer down payment and closing cost assistance too. Call us weekdays 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. or check our website. We're the Pennsylvania Housing Finance Agency. We help homeownership dreams come true.
We are back, and we have joining us to discuss in this segment attorney Lisa Hopkins and also attorney Howard Krug. Thank you for joining us today.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
In our last segment, we had two women who lost custody of their children, and they talked about the court system and the custody. Can you talk and tell us a little bit about the process of custody and how it relates to, I know there's individual cases, but can you just give a general on what the process is in going through a court custody?
In every county throughout Pennsylvania, there is a system set up in order to answer and deal with questions of custody between parents or any two parties who may be unable to resolve the issues on how they're going to deal with the physical and legal aspects of the children.
What are some of the factors that determine who gets primary custody?
Every judge in awarding custody must consider 10 factors. The last of those factors is anything that's reasonable, rational, and important in this particular case based on the facts. The most important factor, in my view, is the facilitation of the relationship with the other parent that's out of custody. If one parent is speaking against the other parent, poisoning the children's minds, that is an excellent way of changing custody. And that was our first case today. That's an absolute no-no. The problem that arises is that people don't do things immediately. In other words, a system is put into place, they just take it for granted and go on, but there's nothing in writing, no orders, nothing. And then as time goes on, one of the parties changes their mind on this voluntary system, and then chaos develops, as we saw in the first case. Now, one factor is facilitation. Obviously, the father in that case did not seek to facilitate the relationship with the mother at all.
Absolutely.
In fact, he acted like a fifth column to destroy the relationship. So that is the most important basis and solid reason for a lawyer to go in there and break it up and end it. But, however, having said that, aside from the factors, one factor is the reasoned, intelligent decision of a child. When children become mature enough to make those decisions, it's hard to change those decisions. That's a major factor in custody.
Most people don't have any idea what the court is looking at. What are they going to make a decision about? The court has a limited amount of time in order to have each hearing. So it's not that the judges don't want to be able to make a decision. They might be unable to have enough information to make the decision that you necessarily want. It's a very unique area of law, and it's a very difficult area for judges. And I think that we've got some very good judges in Dauphin County, and it's a matter of, every situation is going to be dealt with differently because they look at every case, case by case, fact by fact, and they will indicate how it is that they've come to those decisions.
How does the court, what kind of factors they looked in terms of saying that one parent has to pay support, even if they're not physically having that, physically being around the children?
Support is in a subdivision of the Court of Common Pleas. And here in Dauphin County, it's right next to the courthouse on Front Street. But at that level, you're going in, you're meeting with a conference officer, you're not meeting with a judge.
Right.
The appointment will be set, both parties will be notified by an order. And this is only if one of the parties seeks the court to intervene and order child support. And they will be indicated on the order what they're supposed to bring in, their W-2s, their tax returns, the health insurance cards, proof of what it is that they pay for the medical insurance. And to go back to your question, even though a party does not have custody of a child, they can still be ordered to pay child support to the other parent because the way Pennsylvania looks at that is custody is completely separate from child support.
Child support.
They are two separate obligations. By virtue of the fact that you have a child, you are now obligated to pay that support if a party seeks support through the court's intervention. In the case where we heard, as we did, as our guest said, that she was obligated to pay support to the other party. That's because what Pennsylvania says is that the children are supposed to be the one to benefit from this support, regardless of whether or not the family is intact. That child should enjoy what those people, if they had been in an intact relationship, what they would have spent on them.
One of the goals for this show is to help educate and give support to anyone that may be going through child custody. So can you tell some resources perhaps that they can look into?
In Dauphin County, we have a very unique system. We have mid-pen legal services for people who are unable to afford an attorney. They can go there and see if they qualify. Also, there's a modest means program in Dauphin County where if they do not meet the requirements for qualifying through mid-pen for a free attorney, they could have a attorney at a reduced cost. And then there's regular private attorneys like Mr. Krug and myself.
I want to open up and ask the audience if you have any questions for the attorneys that would help shed light on some of the information that we heard here today.
But if you have a parent who is enrolling the child in things and not telling you as with regards to extracurricular activities in and out of school, and then you're just getting a receipt saying this is not even a receipt, just a typewritten letter in the mail saying, I want to recoup half of this, and we didn't even have a conversation. And the relationship is very similar to the other parent that spoke earlier, like, we haven't talked in 3 years.
Where is the financial burden on?
Well, if that person has elected to do something without your approval, I don't see that you're responsible for it. And that's an excellent argument to make to the support court, which I gather that's what this is all about. The idea is the parents are supposed to work together. If they can't work together at all, and one is just taking it, there's no emergency situation. I mean, it's an emergency, hospitalization, whatever. That's a different story. But if it's not an emergency, both parents have to agree. If they don't agree, or one's being unreasonable, they're asking for trouble in the courts. By the way, I think you all should know this. Many, if not most, of the private practitioners will see people or talk to people, even over the phone, for a reasonable period of time to discuss their problems. And that's a freebie, if you will. Don't think that the private bar is ignoring you. It's not.
Make it seems so easy going through this, the custody situation, and that judges are always fair. My encounter with one particular judge was, I would say that all judges are, it's all very subjective on who, amongst the judges regarding custody. This particular judge, he had many cases similar to mine, apparently, and I mean, it was investigated, FBI was involved in it. I do believe, I don't know how you feel about this, my question is that the judges need to be accountable and need to be consistent across the board. How do you feel about that?
How do I feel about it? Well, first of all, if there was any impression that this is easier, that custody is easy, then that was an error then in the way that came across, because the last thing that custody is easy. It's not. Anyone who's been through even one rodeo knows how difficult it is. Judges are held accountable in many different ways, and I certainly can't speak to any particular situation, as we're governed under the rules of the professional conduct from the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. I can't speak about any particular case, but what I can say is that, number one, that's what the appellate court's for. There's the Superior Court, there's the Supreme Court. They reverse, they have the power to look over the particular situations in any particular case based on the record that's sent to them, the arguments that are made on appeal, and those are things that do hold judges accountable. At the same point, judges are human. None of us are infallible. I think the judges' jobs are a very difficult situation. I think that the position that they're in on any given day in custody court is not one that I'd want to do. It's very difficult being an attorney and bringing a custody case. A lot of attorneys choose not to do family law because it is a very difficult area of law. It is not something that you dabble in. You have to understand what's going on. You have to be focused, because those judges are looking out what's for the best interest of that child. But you know what, like everything else, not every single time does every judge get it right. And again, that's from one party's perspective, because the other party is sitting there saying they got it right absolutely.
I want to thank my guests as well as thank the audience for participating today. Child custody is a serious issue, and we need to focus on what's more important. I asked the audience and I asked you, who really loses, the parent or the child? You be the judge. This is Trish Robinson with 2Inspiring, Matters of the Heart. Thank you.
Thank you.